It's about 170 meters till Argus reaches the end of the line.
Roger.
Hey, Mike.
I'm muted. So someone has their microphone directly under their nose and it's very loud and annoying. That's what one of our followers said that.
They wrote that in.
Maybe that's me. Let me check.
I don't hear it in my... Oh.
I think we're kind of giggling a little bit over here, and I think it's just exhaling from the laughing. So, sorry.
Sorry. What is that we're seeing here on the left, the bottom left?
I think it's a bright reflection from some bathymetry. We're going through an area of steep slope, so it's also kind of far out on the edge.
Okay.
Bridge nav. I'm gonna go ahead and select the target off our starboard. Request we step to starboard towards that target, maintaining ship's heading. Thank you.
The winds are down to 8 knots from like 26.
We're gonna have to
That's
come
crazy.
up pretty.
Yeah, within a couple minutes they dropped down to like 15.
That's so
and
crazy.
now they're down to, yeah. They they changed direction about 40 or so degrees.
It's so bizarre. And from everything I could find, the currents in this area are the same.
Yeah, I think they've been pretty constant out of like northeast-ish a little bit. It's definitely hard to tell with Argus behind us, but
right.
when we stop and check the swing, that's usually what's left over.
All right, I'm gonna start the turn line.
Yeah,
So
it's pretty steep. We're going to have to come up probably pretty high for this turn.
Yeah, understood. You're allowed.
What are you doing up here?
Anytime you're ready.
And in a couple of minutes, as I have mentioned before, we have Ed Tripp, which is the Pan American Airways Historical Foundation's chairman, and it's also the son of the Pan American founder. So we're gonna have a conversation with him, and Ross, one of our lead scientists for this expedition. So I'm gonna step out so you guys can enjoy this conversation, and Samantha will be with you on the communications. See you in a little bit, and enjoy.
Alright, this ship's coming around on heading, turning to starboard.
Roger.
Oh, yeah.
Purple sea cucumber.
That's 44.
What?
What was that?
Yeah. Just pick it up a bit more, just in case she loses it altogether. Yeah. Yeah. Who cares? Who cares about if it takes a minute to get down? Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Not that USBL is anything to reference right now, but I think we stopped Argus from going all the way up that slope. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, Mike, are you back there on comms?
Yeah, I'm here.
Can you just slide the edge tech window over a bit so we can see our sub bottom?
Yeah.
It's behind there somewhere. Yeah.
Oops. Is that cool?
Should be good, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, that's perfect. This, you want to see more scale? Yeah. Yeah, if you want to ask him, but it's okay. I just want to see if you're inside 20, yeah. No, I think you got a lot of altitude. I'm just worried if she goes for a scoot somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just tracking towards our line.
Yeah. Hmm? It's good. What? Jeez. Is this DP system on or is it still resetting it?
Well, good morning and good afternoon and good evening to everyone tuning in on Nautilus Live and joining us as we continue to conduct side scan sonar mapping surveys over the target region of the reported wreck site of the Samoan Clipper. This morning, in just a few minutes, we'll be joined by a very special guest, Ed Tripp, who is the chairman of the Pan Am Historical Foundation, as well as the son of Pan Am founder Juan Tripp. So we're looking forward to welcoming Ed to the control van as we continue mapping operations and hear a bit more about Ed's perspective on this expedition. And in the meantime, if you're curious to learn a little bit more about this expedition, check out the link in our status bar at the top of the website or go to latest news.
Hey, yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I hear you.
So Mike, are you hearing the Interspace Center?
I think he has his SPL turned off right now.
Ah.
Is your SPL turned on or off? There you go, try again.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I was talking to ISC. Okay.
Excellent, thanks. So for the viewers at home,
Dwight at ISC talking on SPL. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Dwight.
I'm going to put Ed where I'm sitting.
Okay, perfect. And for the viewers at home, if you switch over to our quad channel, you'll be able to see both the side scan mapping survey, the view from ROV Argus, which is the ROV that's currently mounted with the side scan sonar, as well as the control van, where you can see our science team on headset and monitoring operations. So back row science team, if you want to give a wave as folks joining us. Hello, hello. Thank you. And we will start with an overview of the current state of operations once we are joined by the Interspace Center and Ed Tripp.
Yeah, Bob's asking us to change to put the view of us out on channel 1. All right. Great. Thank you. All right, hi Samantha. So we do have Russ back here now, so we're ready to go.
Sounds good. I think we'll. Are we still joined by the Interspace Center?
Yeah, I can hear you. Is that you? Bob, is that you?
We're both here.
Oh, fantastic. Hey, Ed. How are you?
All right. I think we're getting the Interspace Center, but very quietly. So let's work on those audio levels.
Yeah, I can barely hear them.
Okay. But it looks like Russ might be able to hear them.
I heard them initially, yeah.
Okay. And I heard Dwight when he was.
Can you hear us now?
Oh, Yep, we can hear you now.
Yes.
But still very faintly.
I think right now we're checking to make sure that we have everyone. It seems like we do. So Samantha, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. I think we're still having issues hearing the Interspace Center. Can we get one more audio test, Dwight? Okay, we'll continue to stand by. In the meantime, for folks watching at home, we do have 3 channels currently active on the quad channel. Channel 1, you can see the science team in the control van, who will be giving us more information about the expedition shortly. Channel 2 has our side scan sonar returns that we're actively monitoring, looking as we continue to scan over this site of the reported crash site. And then channel 3 is actually the view from ROV Argus, which is the vehicle that the side scan sonar is mounted to, and we're currently using it as a tow fish.
What are you finding out there, Russ?
Oh, hey, Ed.
Okay.
All right. Oh, good.
There we go.
Well, we're in contact. Well, one, welcome to Ed Tripp, chair of the Pan Am Historical Foundation, and a man with a unique perspective on the history of Pan American through his family connection, being the son of founder Juan Tripp. And I understand we're also joined by Dr. Ballard, and it's a real tremendous honor to be speaking to you now from this ship and with this crew, and thank you for letting me use your cabin while we're at sea. So,
well, keep my seat warm because I'll be flying out there and taking over that seat in a few days.
I will, and I'm going to leave you a few Coke Zeros in the fridge too. So. But yeah, so we are on, well, it's day 3 on board Nautilus for us. And we've been in a fairly constant operation since leaving Pongo Pongo. And we're on the site of what was reported to be the crash position of Samoan Clipper. We've been crisscrossing over it basically east to west, marking some targets as we go. Mike, what number are we at now?
We've got, I think, close to 40 targets.
Okay.
We've done about 12 lines out of 21, so we're definitely making our way through them, through the area. We've moved to the south, so some of the reports of where they found debris were, of course, to the north and to the east. So we thought that the origin of that might be further to the south and the west. So we've been we started at the location of the reported crash, and so we've been moving south from there.
Right. So yeah, so we've seen, we've seen some interesting things, some things that we would characterize as not a rock.
Not rock.
Not rock. And So we've marked those for potential, you know, further analysis later, but we still want to cover ground and you know, get the overall overview of the area first and see what else turns up.
Is there anything else out there that you might come across, or ships, or?
We're not aware of any other potential wrecks in this area. Certainly no other aircraft, and we've not seen anything, you know, that indicates a, you know, obvious wreck of a ship or an aircraft so far. So I'm not too concerned that there's anything to confuse with what we're looking for if we come across it. And so Ed, I understand you've spent some time at the Inner Space Center today.
Morning, seeing this operation, it's amazing. It's absolutely incredible what goes on here.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And this is something for us. You know, the idea of telepresence, of being able to you know, cast a wider net and expand our brain trust, you know, beyond just the people who can fit on this vessel at one time. And I know that was Dr. Ballard. That was your vision really from the beginning, from before even before Titanic.
Yes, when I was at Stanford on sabbatical in 1980, I realized that better to send robots down and stay down forever. You guys have no plans to bring Argus up till you find her, right?
Yeah, right now that's the idea, is to continue until we get a target that we really feel is you know, very, very promising, and you know, with the camera on the downward looking camera on Argus, you know, we're able to kind of ground truth everything as we go, and I think the plan would be, if we have something that we really like, we'll come back and use Argus to verify whether or not it's natural or man-made, and that way, you know, we don't really want to go through the process of reintegrating Hercules and the long, you know, up to 8 hours that might take of downtime, unless we're sure that we're on the spot.
Yep.
Well, and that's the beauty. I mean, for many, many years, I would go down in a submarine. You're down, what, 3,000 plus meters? I mean, that's
yes,
it's a couple hours to get down there, and then you come back up. But because humans aren't there, you're just sending your spirit down. You can keep the vehicle in the water indefinitely and give you more, you know, maximum bottom time. So that was the transition from sending you physically down there to just sending you spiritually down there.
Right.
And now you can literally stay in the game until you can actually get visual verification, and then, like you say, get fancy with Hercules.
Yep.
Absolutely. And I wonder if, while we have this opportunity, I'd love to hear, Ed, I'd love to hear your feelings and your perspective on the search for Samoan Clipper, and why all of this matters, and what people who are listening in, you know, should take away from it.
Well, for the Pan Am community, this is really an amazing experience, opportunity. The Samoan Clipper went down in 1938. It was really the first crash, significant crash of a Pan Am airplane, and that in itself is amazing. The company was founded in 1927 and had its sort of teething survey, flights in the Caribbean, opened up passenger travel in the Caribbean, Latin America, and then crossed the Pacific in 1934, 35. And it did all of that really without a major crash. And Ed Music, who was the captain of this, was the #1 pilot captain in the Pan Am organization, and was really revered. He was on the cover of Time magazine. 10 years after Lindbergh, he'd almost really taken over as the icon of the aviation industry. and for him to be lost captured the whole imagination of the country. It was the world was watching Pan Am cross the Pacific. Now, at this point, opening up air routes between Hawaii and New Zealand, and this tragic accident happens, and so it caught the whole country. It caught the company just flabbergasted, and it was a small company then. A couple thousand employees, but they were all friends of Ed Music and that crew. So the loss was tremendous.
Yeah, you can really sense it in the reading through all the archival material and the radiograms that were exchanged back and forth, and how just that sense of grief is still keen through the sense of inexpressible regret that you see that phrase, and what's incredible is that correspondence still exists, and as I understand it, you had a lot to do with that, with the fact that is still available to researchers at University of Miami.
When Pan Am went under 20 odd years ago now, it's all of the archives of the company, which were voluminous. Just they filled 5,000 file boxes, which were culled down to a couple of hundred. But all those archives with incredible letters and flight logs from the China Clipper, from the Samoan Clipper. We have literally flight logs that were recorded of where the plane had been, what the fuel capacity was, everything, information about every flight that it took. And those now are available still in this incredible archive. So, the history of the plane and history of the early part of Pan Am is there, and for a lot of students, it's really great history.
Absolutely. So we're lucky that it was so convenient, for you. You're so close to the location of the Interspace Center. I wonder, Dr. Ballard, how did you end up locating it there at URI?
Well, this is where I got my PhD many, many moons ago. And when I married Connecticut and left Woods Hole, it was a wonderful opportunity to reestablish myself at my alma mater, although I still maintain my position at Woods Hole. So I did the best of both worlds.
Right. Fantastic. Well, let's see, who's on our science communication fellow tonight?
That would be me. This is Samantha.
Oh, hey, Samantha.
And actually joining us, in addition to viewers from around the world who are watching and listening to the stories and following along with the exploration and the mapping, we also have Dr. Jim Delgado, Senior Vice President of Search Inc., joining us.
Oh, wow.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, as some of our listeners may know, this whole project really began with an invitation from Dr. Delgado to help submit ideas at a conference that was put on by, he was then at NOAA, it was put on by NOAA and Ocean Exploration Trust, hosted in San Francisco, and in anticipation of bringing their vessels, Okeanos Explorer and Nautilus, out here into the Eastern Pacific. And it was quite a thing to get to participate in that, and when they gathered input from scientists from all disciplines, not just archaeologists, but biologists, and chemists, and geologists, and suggesting areas of interest in the Eastern Pacific, and by region and by subject, and then able to, in the process of that workshop, to combine everything together and to identify areas and to help plan these expeditions. So Dr. Ballard, maybe you can tell us more about that process, about how Ocean Exploration Trust plans for its seasons and for where to send Nautilus next.
So the game has changed dramatically now because we just were awarded I say we, as a consortium of organizations that include the Graduate School of Oceanography, URI, where the Interspace Center is and where I am right now, the Ocean Exploration Trust, the University of New Hampshire, the University of Southern Mississippi, and the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution have just now been awarded the competitive process, the Ocean Exploration Cooperative Institute. So this really takes us to another level, and it means that we're now going to be bringing in a lot of other assets. We're building a complete mobile system, and that mobile system is similar to what we used to have before we got to Nautilus. That mobile system comes online in February, and our first major deployment of it will be in the Gulf of Mexico. We're also bringing along 4 AUV systems and 2 autonomous surface vessels. So a lot more assets that we can actually operate simultaneously, so that we can not only just study the bottom of the ocean, which we're doing now, study the water column, and also study the surface area with drones and a variety of other technologies. And it'll take us from a field season that is about 7 months in length to ultimately a year-round field season. So we'll be at sea constantly, and so that really accelerated our program. And so it means that more and more people can become involved. We have different kinds of programs. We call our basic exploration program, which is driven by the very kind of workshop where you presented your ideas in San Francisco years ago. We'll be conducting additional workshops. But really, to learn more about it is to go to the oceanexplorationtrust.org website. But we will be launching a whole new website for the Ocean Exploration Cooperative Institute. But we just got that a few weeks ago, so give us a chance to figure it out. But right now, I'm getting ready to go to sea.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And I think should probably also put in a plug for the Pan Am Historical Foundation and panam.org for you to learn more and more about the history of Pan American Airlines. And Ed, since we have you on here, and it's such an opportunity for the people listening around the world, would you tell us some more about your father and his vision for a transoceanic airline?
I'd be delighted. That Pan Am was founded in 1927. He was a World War I pilot. He flew night bombers, not overseas, but he was trained to fly night bombers and had this passion for air transportation. It was in the 20s, the thought of starting an airline was sort of way out there. My mother's parents thought he was nuts, but he was a stubborn guy and had this vision of the world being brought together by through the air, and air transportation becoming a mass business, able to move people and mail and cargo across continents and across oceans. And it started out in Latin America with 2-3 engine seaplanes, because there were no airports or very few. So their early years were the beginning of seaplane operations, and the Latin America operation was really a proving ground, a test for them. They initially wanted to cross the Atlantic, but there were bilateral issues with the British and the French in terms of getting landing rights in Europe, and they didn't have, the British and the French didn't have the capability of matching Pan Am's technology of flying across the ocean. So they turned west and started developing routes across the Pacific. And the early aircraft, the Sikorsky aircrafts were really the workhorse of it. And that was followed by a Martin M130, which became the China Clipper, the first one that actually flew across the Central Pacific from San Francisco to Honolulu, and then across the Central Pacific to Hong Kong. And the last of the great flying boats was the B-314, which was a Boeing aircraft approaching the size of a modern-day jet. It was huge, capable of carrying these shorter hold 50-odd people, 60 people. But those periods were tough. I mean, there's the romanticism of flying the oceans was there, but they were. It wasn't all that easy. You think of these planes flew, they had no pressurization, so they were all under 20,000 feet max, and they were faced with weather and difficult flying conditions. The avionics of navigation were just in the infancy. So, in the early 30s, planes would get lost. In the Caribbean, they'd find their way back, but one was lost early on in that development, and they realized they weren't going to go any farther unless they solved the problem of navigation, and they mastered that, and certainly mastered it, and they're proving they could cross the Pacific. You think of leaving San Francisco to Honolulu. Or Honolulu back to San Francisco with winds and weather, and it could be 20-odd hours before you make your destination. And you were constantly sort of unaware of the pitfalls that were out there. The weather conditions changed, the winds changed, and so. But they mastered that. And Ed Musick, the captain of the Samoan Clipper, was really the guy that led the way in terms of the navigation and development of this whole Pacific route structure.
Sorry, I was muted. I was going to ask you about that, about how Ed Musick came to be at Pan American and what role he played with the company.
Ed Musick was one of the, he may have been the first, or certainly became the most prominent Pan Am captain. I think he joined in 27, 28, and was the guy, along with Lindbergh. Lindbergh was a technical advisor to the company, but the two of them were in the forefront of developing routes all through Latin America, South America. Lindbergh on his own doing survey flights across the Pacific and the Atlantic with his wife. Those were sort of famous flights in themselves. Musick was the guy that charted the flights in the existing Pan Am aircraft, and he was a meticulous individual, just thorough, and never did everything by the book.
Oh yeah, and I wonder if we could ask, do you recall your father ever speaking about Ed?
He talked about him, but in the same sort of reverence that he talked about Lindbergh, who was a friend and was often at the dinner table, and they would talk about him in terms of the early flights. And I don't really recall him speaking about him as an individual or his family, but I do know that when that plane went down and was lost, it stunned the Pan Am family, and it was I guess dusk in Pango at the time it went down, so that was early morning, I guess, back in New York. And when the news came in, if I had the timelines right, news came in, the company was stunned. It was like a small family. So. But,
absolutely. So, Samantha, I wonder, with all those people listening in around the world, have any of them written in with any questions for us?
Absolutely. We do have a few questions coming in. Some folks are wondering, what are Ed's thoughts on sharing this expedition live and not just hearing about the results after it's finished, as many expeditions typically run?
It's fantastic experience to see it live. I wish we were 2 more days into it and I could see the actual recognition of the site, but I guess I'll go online and watch that happen, not here, but from my own computer.
Well, I love that idea. Let's do that in a couple days for sure. Any other questions, Samantha?
Absolutely. Let's see what we've got. Another question here is, how was the Samoan Clipper part of a larger mission at the time, and what kind of came next after this tragedy for that line of airplane?
It really was the end of the line for that type of aircraft, the S-42. The next generation of aircraft was the Boeing the Boeing 314 was the last one, but between the two was the Martin 130 that was in service at the time. The S-42 had been used as a workhorse in terms of surveying flights, and this flight was part of a survey of developing the air route to Auckland, mail and initially, and then passengers. But as you got into the war years, those Clippers were the one aircraft in the U.S. air arsenal that was able to fly really long distances. And the B-314 would fly, it could fly 23, 24 hours. So it was important to the war effort in terms of a cargo. It flew Roosevelt to the Casablanca conference. It was a workhorse in terms of the transatlantic and less so the Pacific, because they didn't control the Pacific. But at the time that the Samoan Clipper went down, it was part of a group of aircraft that did survey flights, and the most important was the survey flight between Hawaii and New Zealand.
As I'm listening to this, I'm just marveling at how incredible it is to be able to field these questions from people around the world, and then have them answered, by experts, on the other side of the globe, and the opportunity to share that and to educate people about different subjects and about the process of exploration is really remarkable, and that I know I've heard, Dr. Ballard, I've heard you speak really passionately about the education opportunities that are provided by this, and I'd love for people to hear you talk about that some more right here, right now.
It all really came when we found the Titanic, and I came back from that expedition, and there were 16,000 letters on my desk, probably one from a young man sitting to your right now, Michael Brennan, because I know that he came to me, and in fact, I'm going to put Mike in the hot seat here, and to have him tell the story of how he met me, and came to my house in Connecticut, and then went on to where he is right now. So give him a little background on how participating in live exploration inspired you, Mike, to go down the road that you went down.
Yeah, so I was at the right age when the Jason project was early on, and my parents had taken my brothers and I to Woods Hole as a field trip, and we saw the information about the Bismarck discovery as well as some of the early Jason projects, and we participated in the Galapagos expedition, which was Jason 3 in the early 90s at the Maritime Aquarium in Norwalk, Connecticut, and then we were able to meet you. I don't remember exactly what the situation was, but you were there giving a talk, I think, and we were in the audience, and you came right over afterwards, and we had books for you to sign and all that. And then I applied to the Jason project, which was sort of your version of the Corps of Exploration at the time, though on a much smaller scale, and went out with you to Yellowstone as an Argonaut, one of 24 international students for Jason Project 8, I believe, in 1997, and then talked to you about what it would take to pursue this sort of career, and you gave me advice to go into the hard sciences, geology, as well as in archaeology, and I did that at Bowdoin College, And then again, the timing worked out really well for me, and you started the program in the dual degree in archaeological oceanography at URI. Happened to be starting up the year that I graduated college, and I connected with you, I guess the year before that, and you had me apply. So, and the rest is history, I guess.
Then went on and got your dual degree. Came to my Ocean Exploration Trust that came online when the Nautilus came online, and then you have probably found more shipwrecks, ancient shipwrecks in the deep sea than anyone else. And I was just corresponding with Dan Davis, your colleague, and the publications you're working on now from the seminal work we did in the Black Sea and the Aegean. It's really wonderful to see that all happen. So the bottom line is start early.
Start early, yeah.
You recruit people. My favorite students are ones in middle school. I think they're the coolest students on the earth because they're just forming their passions, and then they can see you and others. Who's that young lady off to your left? Could you introduce her to us, Mike?
Yeah, this is Rebecca Whipfler. She was an intern, what, 2 or 3 years ago?
Yep, 2 years ago.
So this is her third time out. And remind me where you're from?
I'm from Illinois.
Illinois, and what school?
I just graduated from the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign.
So another success story of
my
an intern
daughter.
coming back.
My daughter Emily Rose just got off. She is now 22. And she started sailing on the Nautilus at 15, which is the youngest age we can take. And she's been to sea ever since, and having her wisdom teeth taken out so she can come back and join me in a few weeks. So it begins very, very early. As you said, the Jason Project was sort of the precursor, but now with our program, and Samantha, I'm going to ask you to talk about some of the opportunities for young people associated